I'm going to be talking pretty much about economic development in Parsippany. Now, I ran for mayor of Parsippany because of my strong belief in Parsippany as a vibrant, safe community with a great ethnic and cultural diversity. A township where excellent schools and recreational facilities are provided, businesses prosper, and government serves the needs of both its residents and its businesses. My vision is I want Parsippany to be a leader in sustainability and economic activity. It was my dream for Parsippany to be the kind of town where people want to work and raise their families, where restaurants and retail mom and pop stores would thrive among Fortune 500 companies. In order to achieve this goal, I believe township government must focus on 4 pillars that will ensure Parsippany's future of economic prosperity. 1, provide high-quality essential services. 2, establish a regulatory environment that is streamlined and not needlessly burdensome. 3, ensure that our zoning and development ordinance plan for our future growth and redevelopment. And lastly, we achieve these goals at the lowest possible cost so that our property tax remains competitive, not just in New Jersey and Parsippany, but the entire region. So let me take the next few minutes to update you what we have done in the past year and what we plan to do in the future to strengthen these 4 pillars of economic prosperity. First, let me update you on the steps we are taking to deliver high-quality services in a tough economic environment. As you have heard and you're aware, the state of New Jersey is in a difficult financial crisis. I'll tell you right now, that financial crisis has been passed on to municipalities through the cuts in state aid and the state taking revenues that were dedicated to municipalities. This is something that I really have to explain to everyone here. You know we have a 2% cap. And the state has promised us that we would get a toolkit to offset that cap. Now the gentleman that was just here, Mr. Clemente, he showed you increases in fuel prices, increases in all other things that towns have to, utility costs. All those costs, of course, they go higher than a 2% cap. So towns like Parsippany and towns in the whole entire state are going to be struggling this coming year. And I have to tell you, if you don't have a toolkit, and a meaningful toolkit, towns are going to be in dire straits. Parsippany, right now, we're over, I think, approximately $2 million on the cap. We're looking at major layoffs. And it's hard for towns like Parsippany, which is a full-service town, to sustain those things. And I find it hard that the state has the ability, and always has, to divert revenues that are ours to their budget so they can balance it. First, that's not fair, and that shouldn't be allowed, but it is. So we have to deal with it. And the state has promised us to help us, some of those with, reforming labor negotiations, rules, civil service, and health benefit plans. But like I said, unfortunately, we're not going to see the toolkit this year. But in light of these challenges, I plan to take a business-like approach to Parsippany's budget. Our payroll has been trimmed, but it will need further pruning. We are reaching out to neighboring towns to see if consolidation of certain services will enable us to provide high-quality services to Parsippany residents. Now, I don't know if you guys have been reading the paper, and I'm sure you have, but the Senate President, Sweeney, a few weeks ago made a comment that if towns don't share services, they're going to take our aid away. Well, I said, you can take 0 away if you want, because we're getting them. And why I have a problem with that is because when they tell us to share services, I will share services with other towns if they share funding with Parsippany. And it's important to know that we're the largest town in Morris County who receives less than 1% of funding. And I can't imagine how much income tax dollars we send down from residents to Trenton to get less than 1% back. And then neighboring towns, because they live next to an Abbott district, which I don't know if, and I can explain that to you later, they automatically get more money than Parsippany. But we have a large, diverse community in Parsippany. I know that. I grew up there. I graduated from the schools there. But anyway, let's get back to, because I'm going to rant about this all day. We will preserve the key, services that residents of Parsippany and businesses need to sustain Parsippany's quality of life. But other programs will be cut or reduced and will be eliminated. But I have to make sure our town is safe. That's the most important thing. Second, we want a regulatory environment in Parsippany that is simple to understand and easy to navigate. Therefore, we are going to review our process of receiving permits and licenses to ensure that it works, not for the government employees behind the counter, but for business applicants. I would also like to have all applications and detailed instructions posted on the township website so that applicants know exactly what they need when they come to town hall to apply for the permits. Our third and most important pillar involves planning for our future. The entire state is suffering, as the gentleman said before, from a deep recession. The nation, to be exact. However, time will recover, we will recover, and it's my job to make sure that Parsippany is poised to benefit from that recovery. That means we need zoning and redevelopment regulations that take into account how our town is changing and how businesses have reorganized themselves after one of the deepest recessions in our nation's history. I have directed our town planner to review our zoning regulations in key growth corridors and recommend changes that will attract new investments and encourage development or redevelopment, and to look at underutilized commercial and industrial properties. And I have to report he's been doing that, and we have redeveloped certain areas in Parsippany needed rehabilitation already that was approved by the planning board and by the town council. I came in here with an aggressive approach growing up in town, and I was just telling one of the gentlemen standing on, when I grew up here, well, not here, this is not Parsippany, it's close. Prudential was in there. All these campuses weren't there. We had nothing but woods. And when I got elected, I said I was going to be aggressive in maintaining all that and maybe hopefully adding to it. And I have to tell you, I met with a company that actually moved to Parsippany in January, and I met with them, and we were talking. They wanted to move the whole operations to Parsippany. I was so happy, but they couldn't. And the reason why they couldn't, and we had the gentleman, Mr. Clement, talking about manufacturing, they wanted to move the whole operations to Parsippany, manufacturing everything, sales. They couldn't because of, and this is what they said to me, this was really disappointing and depressing, not on everyone. But they moved their operations overseas because the rate they get taxed at is 20% in Israel, 17% in Israel. India is 20%. All of Europe is 20%. The United States is 37%. So they got a bigger bang for the buck overseas than here. So I guess if the federal government would reduce those taxes, they would stay and that would create more jobs. I was kind of disappointed, but I understood where he was going, the gentleman. Our major goal I have is the development of a town center in Parsippany. I envision a mixed-use, pedestrian-friendly promenade with a mix of retail shops, restaurants, and possibility of family entertainment center. A town center that will sponsor events of all types to attract shoppers and visitors. And we are currently in discussion with a major developer to make this a reality in Parsippany. Finally, for Parsippany to continue to be a welcoming place for employers, employees, and their families, it must remain affordable, and therefore controlling the rate of growth of property taxes is our biggest challenge. Within the past 2 years or so, our rateable base has eroded a bit due to a large number of commercial tax appeals. And that's something I'm going to work on and try to reverse. However, I think it's important to recognize that while other towns are suffering financially because of the economic crisis, Parsippany is faring far better than other sectors in terms of maintaining our revenue base. I also believe that we have succeeded in attracting economic development. While the recession has had an effect on our community, I sincerely believe that our industrial and commercial base has remained stable. 25 of these office buildings are single-tenant or owner-occupied, utilizing almost 5 million square feet. This is a very strong base in a strong and stable office market. These office campuses are known for having substantial anchor tenants. Retention of these anchor tenants is the key to Parsippany's financial stability and long-term success.